Good afternoon, and welcome all members of the media and our distinguished guests and members of the community that are here today. My name is Lawrence O'Reilly, capital O, apostrophe, capital R-E-I-L-L-Y. I am one of the attorneys on behalf of Mr. Victor Williams and Jamal Smith. My colleague in this matter is Mr. Michael E. Baker, B-A-K-E-R. And if I didn't say so, my particular name, Lawrence, is spelled with a W rather than a U. We represent Victor and Jamal, and I will ask that anybody that has a phone on, that it be on mute during this time so that everybody can hear us. We represent Victor and Jamal in this matter, and we're going to make a brief statement initially, and then we will be happy to take any questions that you have following the initial statement.
Thank you, Lawrence. And again, my name is Michael Baker, B-A-K-E-R, and the actions of Mayor Robert Odenkirk on May 31st were not the actions of a man exercising his right to self-defense. Videos that have been released clearly show Mayor Odenkirk, without provocation, grab Mr. Williams in the neck area, drive him back with force, and slam him down to the ground. Further videos show Mr. Smith and Mr. Williams being thrown down to the ground and then jumped upon by several members of the Joliet Police Department, where they were beaten. And the videos show this beating took place long after they were on the ground and lying in a a defenseless position. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, the videos speak 1,000,000. Right. The elected leader of this city chose to show up to an event that was based on peace and hopefully unity. He should have been there to unify. He should have been there to heal a fractured and divided community. It should have been an opportunity to tell the citizens of Joliet and the surrounding community that what happened to Minneapolis will never happen here.
Right. Amen.
Instead, Mayor Odenkirk chose to divide the city further by his own violent actions towards a citizen of this community. And in doing so, he told us exactly what he stands for. Now, we are here today to formally request that the Illinois State Police open a criminal inquiry that includes an investigation not only to Robert Odenkirk's actions against our clients on May 31st, but to any and all members of the Joliet Police Department that participated in the violent beating that left both of our clients in the hospital.
I didn't do so at the beginning, but I'd like to introduce our two clients to you right now. I'd like to introduce you to Victor Williams, and then I'd like to introduce you to Jamal Smith, his older brother. These are the two people at the heart of this matter. They are the victims in this matter, not Robert Odenkirk.
Yes. 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 Yes.
At this point, if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, we're happy to take limited questions to the extent that there are.
Could you please describe the moments leading up to what was caught on video?
Well, so the moments leading up to the video were Mr. Williams walking in a direction down the street, and you could see Mayor Odenkirk standing there, and this is, at this point, a report from, I believe, the chief of police of Joliet, who indicated that the mayor may have had a black hat on representing the Joliet Police Department. And the video shows him walking behind Mr. Williams and sort of instructing people to go home. Our client's video doesn't exactly show exactly what was exchanged in terms of words, but the next thing you know, he grabs him by the area around his neck and pushes him back violently, and ultimately they all end up on the ground.
And I would add to that, Victor was merely trying to tell him when he said, you can't go that direction, you've got to leave. He was starting to tell him, I'm only going in that direction to meet up with my brother. And that's when the mayor grabbed him. So he was doing nothing but saying, I'm going over there to my brother, and then he was grabbed in what the mayor himself described as a common police takedown move. I would ask this question. If for any other citizen, and that's all the mayor is, he's not cloaked in police authority anymore. If any other citizen were walking around the streets with a police hat on and were directing people where they could and could not go, and then were to grab somebody and take them down to the ground, any one of us would have been arrested at the very least for an aggravated battery on the public way, and certainly could have charged him with false personation of a police officer, which he is not. The fact that they arrested our clients and had the gall to arrest them and charge them with the assault and them with mob action when it was already dispersing and they were walking to their car ready to go home. The focus of this investigation should be on the mayor and his actions. And as Michael pointed out, we have directed a letter to the chief of police asking that an independent investigation take place by the state police. And I believe that the state's attorney of Will County has joined in that call for an independent investigation by the state police. And we believe if they do that, charges should and will be dismissed against our client. And charges should seriously be considered against the mayor for those things that I just mentioned a moment ago.
The eyewitness said she may have seen Mr. Williams spit on the mayor, but in the video it looks like he's wearing a breathing mask.
He was wearing a mask on his face, so that definitely shows you the mentality and where the mayor is at when he starts with lies right from the get-go. He was wearing a mask and could not have spit on him at all.
And I'll just point out another fact, because you mentioned, I believe in singular, the eyewitness. There were many eyewitnesses on the scene. Not one of those eyewitnesses that we have spoken corroborate, I believe, the eyewitness that's come out and given several interviews and made, I believe, her statement known. So,
in fact, I'm not going to reveal today, but I got a call this morning from somebody who told me they were on the scene, were taking photos that day, and that they know that she is false and that what she saw is not what occurred that night. So I clearly call into question her account and her motives for even saying it. And another thing is, I mean, if you've been, Michael and I have both been to that area. We were there less than 48 hours after this incident occurred. And while they talk about the looting and the rioting that was going on, Michael and I were there about 36 hours after the incident occurred. There's not a single business in the area where this incident occurred that had any boarding up or any damage to it whatsoever. None whatsoever. If there was looting or any of that going on, it was not going on where this incident occurred, because where this occurred, the crowd was already in a posture of dispersing and heading to their vehicles and heading home. And that's what my clients were doing. Any other
Would
questions?
your clients be able to say a few words?
at this point, because our clients are facing criminal charges, we would prefer that we do their speaking.
Could you talk about their injuries, how long they spent in the hospital, and how they are today?
Well, as you guys can plainly see, they both look, at least physically, well. That's not to speak to any emotional or mental damage that this has caused. But their injuries, we're still compiling all their medical records, so we don't want to necessarily tell you every single injury that were sustained by them. But you can look at them and you can see that they're obviously able to walk, talk, move around. So they were not of the type that were horrible.
What other videos do you have, and what do they show, and what other evidence do you have? What do we describe it?
Well, as Mike mentioned, we've already are in possession of a name of a number of people that were out that day that have contacted us when they learned that we're their lawyers and have given us their name and their information and are willing to come forward. We are in possession of some other videos that from that evening, and specifically from that very incident and that at that location. And again, they're not quite as the same as what you've already seen. They're a little different. In one of them, the camera seems to be tilted because the person seems to be either holding it sideways during this, but when you're looking at it, you can clearly see there's no melee going on whatsoever, other than you can see the police officers continuing to throw punches at both Victor and Jamal as they lay on the ground. So there are additional videos. And while our focus might seem like it's on the mayor today, it is also focused squarely on those members of the police that when they saw a white man take a black man down to the ground, without knowing any of the facts or circumstances, the police went immediately to the aid of the white man.
That's right. That's right.
Rather than the black man, and all that Jamal was doing, as any big brother would, and I am the youngest of 7. I've got 6 older brothers. If any of my brothers saw me being tossed to the ground by somebody, I can assure you they would have come to my aid. And there is nothing wrong with that. We have a law in this country called defense of others, and Jamal was going to aid his brother, who he saw only being tackled by a white man and knew nothing else about the man. And then he himself was thrown to the ground and beaten. So, you know, rather than come and try to break it up and figure out who's at fault or who's doing what, the police chose to jump on the 2 black men on the ground and continue hitting them repeatedly on the ground. So the focus is not just on the mayor who caused all of this, but it's also on those members of the police department.
That's right.
And I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I will now. Over the course of the weekend, Michael and I delivered electronically to the city of Joliet what we refer to legally as a preservation letter. That is a letter asking the city of Joliet to preserve all evidence related to this incident. It was served on various offices for the city of Joliet, including the chief of police, the city manager, and the corporation counsel office. We expect that they will honor our request to preserve all evidence, and so that has been done. We intend to serve them personally with that as well today.
Are you saying that Jamal didn't know that that was the mayor of the city of Joliet at that time?
Neither one.
Are their parents here to speak? Is either one of their parents here?
His mother's deceased.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
Yeah.
but they have members of the community, family and faith leaders that are all here supporting him because of their family is not whole as they would like it at this time.
But to answer the question, neither Jamal or Victor knew that Mayor Oderkirk was in fact the mayor. He never seemed to identify him as such. Wasn't wearing anything other than perhaps a Joliet Police Department hat and some regular civilian clothes. It's like a sweat outfit.
Next steps, are you waiting for an inquiry to file a lawsuit, or is that in the works, or what's going on?
So, as Lawrence just mentioned, there was a preservation letter that was served upon the city over the weekend, and we're going to serve a hard copy at the conclusion of this press conference. Part of the reason that we're doing that is to preserve all evidence in contemplation and investigation for a civil action.
You say you've talked to a lot of potential witnesses. Can you just put a number on that? How many people you've talked to so far who were at the scene?
I'd say upwards of a dozen. Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any indication from the police department about moving to drop the charges against Mr. Williams and Mr. Smith?
I would not say that there's any movement by the police to drop the charges. I was a bit encouraged by the fact that it was the chief of police, his office, that phoned me and asked me to join them in calling for an independent investigation. I think that at least shows a little bit on the part of the chief of police. I'm sure that he was put in an awkward position because from what I've read in media accounts, he was not informed ahead of time that the mayor was ever going to be there that night. So he's put the police in this awkward position as well. But there's been no call. But as recently as Friday, I have not had a chance to look today, but as recently as Friday, I did go online to the clerk of the circuit court for the county of Will to determine whether they actually have filed the formal charges against my clients. Their bond slips indicate that they were charged with aggravated assault and mob action. As of Friday, there had been no official filing with the clerk of the circuit court. So I don't know if that's a good sign, or as of today. So as of today, that has not been filed with the circuit court of Will County. So we will keep monitoring that situation. I think maybe it's a good indication that they are waiting for this independent authority, the Illinois State Police, to do their own investigation, and maybe the right thing will be done here, and we'll get notice that the charges have been dismissed. But right now, my 2 clients have a court date coming up in July.
Do you know if that's unique to your clients, or if the formal charges were filed against against any of the other defendants from that night?
I'm sorry.
Do you know if that's unique to your clients, or have others been charged formally from that night?
We're not able to speak to
Okay.
that.
I mean, yeah, but over.
I will say, and I will say that we are aware that others were arrested,
Right.
but we don't know what they've been charged with, or if they were released without charging. We don't know that.
I'd like to point out, just again from my observation of the media, just in the last few days, we saw police officers in Buffalo who pushed a 75-year-old man to the ground. And guess what? They were charged with a felony for pushing that man to the ground. We have a white man here who has no police authority whatsoever, walking around, perhaps impersonating a police officer, and grabbing a man and throwing him to the ground. That is a felony. It's called aggravated battery. I deal with them all the time. That's a felony called false personation of a police officer. And yet no one is pointing that out. No one is asking that the mayor be arrested, given a bond slip. I don't know why the mayor himself, some people have called for him to resign. I would think that at the very least, knowing that there is going to be an independent police investigation, that he might step aside and without pay while this inquiry is going on. Why should he be working and being paid with tax dollars when there is an independent investigation of his actions from that evening? He should be suspended from his duties without pay until the inquiry is over.
The mayor has said that either he was pushed or that Victor went to push him and when he reacted. Can you describe what at all Victor did? Or was there any words exchanged? Or was there any movement of the arms even?
I believe, as Lawrence at one point said, the only words that our client, Victor, said to Mayor Oderkirk was informing him that his brother was standing down the street, which is where he was trying to walk.
Do you lift his hands at all when he's talking to you?
At this point, we're not in a position to say.
On the video, though, I think it's fairly clear that as soon as the mayor grabs him by the horsepower, Jamal's hands come back. Come back. They do not go forward toward the mayor. They come back. So I would say that. Any other questions at all?
Is there any family member or friend who could speak?
This is his family.
Is there a designated spokesperson who can just...
Lawyer's press conference. It's a lawyer's press conference. That's what he was announcing. It's a lawyer's press conference.
We're here for the lawyer. Is here to speak to you. No one's speaking to go through the lawyer. That's what we're here to speak about.
I will say that members of the community have obviously given previous press conferences, and they've expressed their positions on behalf of the community and the interests that they represent. There's a lot of people here who represent the interests of justice ultimately and the interests of racial equality, and have in previous times expressed sincere concern over that, and this incident obviously draws that into stark contrast.
You can see that my partner's the more eloquent of the two of us. Anybody else?
Justice for Jamal and Victor. That's right. Justice for Jamal and Victor. 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 And say justice in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much.
Our complexion needs protection. Our complexion needs protection.
We're here at City Hall with the young man that was in the scuffle with Mayor Oderkirk.
My name is Betty Washington. I'm a member of the Joliet NAACP, and it goes farther than this. We need to mobilize, we need to vote, and coming up, we will have voter education and voter registration drives in the future, which will be announced on social media, so stay tuned. This is just the beginning.
The lawyer's comment about the mayor should be charged.
Should they file? They've been given bond slips with those because they were arrested, processed,
Also
photographed,
inciting the riot.
fingerprinted, and they were given a
And I
bond.
also want to say
and on their bond slip, it
to
says
the Joliet
assault and
people
mob
that
action with a court date of
our
July
complexion
2nd.
needs protection from the police.
305.
My name is Reverend Heath with Redeemed Connections Ministries, a faith-based community organization, and I was here in support of this press conference on behalf of the two young men. I heard what their attorney said, and as it relates to the investigation that is being taking place, I believe what they stated would speak to justice, would speak to fairness and accountability, and that's what we're looking for the mayor and the police, as well as ourselves, to be accountable for our actions. And so that's what we're looking for.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Bishop Stephen Evans, pastor of Legal Faith Ministries here in Joliet. And I think you all already know the reason why I'm here. I'm here to support these two young brothers because I think that what happened to them was wrong. I appreciate the comments that the attorneys made. It sounds like they know exactly what they're talking about and exactly what they're doing. I'm here again because I believe that it's important for me as a leader in the body of Christ here in this city to be out here supporting our people, the ones that we minister to on a weekly basis, the ones that we counsel, the ones that call us when they have a problem. I think it's important for them to see us out here supporting them, especially at a time like this. This is not to slight anyone else, but we are here because we believe in these young men. I've talked to them personally, and I believe that what they said is true. And I just want justice for them. Now, what the mayor decides to do will ultimately be determined later on down the road, but we're here because we support these young men and their family, and we want things to be made right.
It is always good to be informed. I'm glad to be in City Joliet to help with that once again. We just did a press conference with the two attorneys for the two young men that are victims. They are not the story, they're the victims. And that's what the two lawyers bring to us today. It was wrong what happened in City Joliet with our Mayor Bob Odenkirk. What has happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota has uncovered the ugliness of America all across this world and all across this nation and in small cities like Joliet. Had it not been for video, a lot of people would have got away with a lot of things. So what we're trying to do is justice, just like the rest of the world, not only for George Floyd, but for these two victims that are represented here on today.
Yeah, I'm Tony Graves, also known as Baba Tunde Ari from Mawali, native of Joliet, former member of the Untitled Chapter Black Panther Party, community activist and organizer.
And I am Stephen Newell of In Just Us for All. We believe in equality, no discrimination, and reform, as well as raising awareness on these situations that's going on in the world today.
Although I didn't know both those brothers personally, I do know their family. But I just want to say that it's exhibited by the mayor's behavior, that his whole administration needs to be looked at in terms of employment here at the city of Joliet, in terms of the funding of police, in terms of the defunding of youth programs, the defunding of police athletic league. I think overall this is just a reflection of this administration. It needs to be looked at from top to bottom. And we need to be real adamant about it. It needs to be done post haste.
Yes.
make certain everybody's ready to get cued. Good afternoon. My name is Al Penn. I am facilitating this press conference for Mayor Bob Odenkirk. We're going to discuss the events that happened on May 31st. The mayor will read a prepared statement. There will be other individuals who will speak, and the mayor will come back after those speakers are done, and he will give his answers to any particular questions that you might have afterwards. You'll be still staying around. So that being said, Mayor Bob Odenkirk, Mayor of the City of Joliet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Thanks for putting up with us, too, with the bad weather approaching. We did move this inside, and because of the COVID restrictions, there can only be so many people in the room, so thank you for working with us and being patient. I would like to thank again all of you for coming out, and especially thank all the community leaders who have chosen to join me this afternoon. I want to take a brief opportunity to address what happened in Joliet on May 31st at both the productive and peaceful protests which occurred during the day and the subsequent hurtful and chaotic behavior that came to our city that evening. The streets were filled with protesters with good intentions during the day. As night fell, these protests turned into chaos and left the streets of Joliet filled with individuals determined to destroy all the progress made that day through disruption, destruction, theft, violence, and even arson. In times of social crisis and discontent, local officials need to interact directly with the people they are responsible for. This is why I met and spoke with demonstrators that day, focusing on the wrongful death of George Floyd at the hands of police officers in Minnesota and related issues of social and economic inequality. I was proud of the protesters' peaceful demonstration. I was proud of our constructive conversations and discussions with Black Lives Matter. Our city understands that there has to be a willingness to work together to improve many aspects of American life so that everybody feels that they are being treated equally and fairly. Whether you are black, white, Latino, Asian, straight, gay, lesbian, or trans, everyone deserves to have the feeling that they are being treated equally and fairly. But those who came to Joliet and sought to destroy our great city will be dealt with, swiftly and appropriately. There is no tolerance for looting, rioting, the burning of buildings, or unruly behavior. This is not the way to honor the precious life of George Floyd, who was unjustifiably murdered in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in broad daylight by a white police officer. It is also not the way to honor the great city of Joliet, Illinois, in the dark of the night. Many who have criticized me have questioned why I was present on the site with the first responders, why I was assisting in keeping the peace. It was a personal choice I made based on my willingness to support the peaceful protests that had just taken place and support the men and women of the Joliet Police and Fire Departments. In regards to the specific action I took on Sunday night, there could be room for discussion about whether the mayor of the city of Joliet should have been there. But considering what transpired that evening on our streets, I can only imagine what those discussions would be like if I had not been there. The most unfortunate consequence of this incident is that it detracts from the purpose of the peaceful demonstration seeking social justice and better accountability in addressing police brutality, better community policing strategies, and better police training and tactics. While all public servants, including law enforcement first responders, are duty-bound to serve and protect all citizens, it was never my intention to take any action or activity to distract from the message of those peacefully protesting. This unfortunate altercation is a teachable moment for everybody, for the people of Joliet, for the Joliet Police Department, and even for me as the mayor. I understand there are those who perceive this to be an era of judgment and inaction. No one, anyone, including me, intends or seeks to be judged by one specific action. In the subsequent days since this incident has happened, many have made their individual interpretations of what happened as part of the public discussion, and that's fair. But what I can also tell you is that it is impossible for anyone to define my personal intent on what happened that night for me, except for me. I only acted to defend myself because I felt my personhood was threatened. So to those who choose to be critical, please do not mischaracterize my actions as an attack. I sought to hurt no one but only to preserve my own personal safety in the middle of the chaos. Currently, there's an investigation that has been initiated, and I fully welcome it. I will fully support the total transparency and openness because the public deserves the facts and the truth. In the last week, there were a small group of Joliet pastors who have commented on this incident, including Bishop Stephen Evans. I personally have a lot of respect for Bishop Evans and the good works he has done for the city of Joliet. And I believe and know he was absolutely correct when he stated that the job of the mayor is to unite the community. But in addition to my responsibility to bring people together, I also have a sworn responsibility to protect the life, liberty, and property of the people of Joliet as a matter of public safety. Not all those goals of unity can be achieved just by the mayor and the city council. We need the entire community's help in order for that to happen. I need the help of Bishop Evans and other religious leaders. I need the help of every community leader possible. I need help from the business community and need help from the participation of young people from Joliet. We need to hear their perspective. We need citizens to work with me, the city council, and our police department. But also, we are here to listen. We are here to listen and dialogue with one another. We are a community and should not respond as fractured, but as a community. We need everybody's help. To be clear, moving forward, I am personally willing to work with anyone who wants to bring positive change and social justice to Joliet. I think my record as mayor proves that, and many of the community leaders that are here today will confirm that fact. I have worked hard for 5 years to bring people in our community together and have made myself available and accountable in every way possible. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once stated, quote, "We all have to learn to live as brothers and sisters, or we will all perish together as fools." I will choose to commit towards living together in a united community as brothers and sisters peacefully within this city. I will commit and continue to do so every day as mayor of the great city of Joliet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Oda-Kirk. The next person that's on the agenda is Mr. Cornell Darden. He is President and CEO of the South Suburban Black Chamber of Commerce in Joliet. Mr. Darden.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to say that this is a very troubling time for our country and our great city of Joliet. And I would also like to say that I support the mayor wholeheartedly. We have a great mayor here in our city, and I'm very proud to have worked with our mayor to get a lot of things done as far as the black business community is concerned, and I look forward to working with him in the future. I think that at this time, we need unity. We need to come together as a community to help solve some of our issues. Our city, by no way, is not perfect. We have a lot of issues, and the Black Chamber has spoken out several times about those issues. The mayor has always been there. He's always done everything that we've asked to move forward. I support him wholeheartedly, and speaking on behalf of our black businesses who have been working with us with our endeavors, they could say the same thing. Our mayor is a good mayor, and we would not like to see our mayor persecuted for something that he did not do. I definitely think that it's a time for healing, it's a time for conversation and communication, and that we need to all work together and bring unity to our city. Thank you.
Next to speak is Reverend Lonnie Posley. He is the pastor of New Canaan Land Church here in Joliet, Illinois. Reverend Posley.
I want to take this opportunity to tell everyone thank you for coming out, and we just want to take this opportunity to stay in our lane. I believe I ran track, and when I ran track, we had to stay in our lane or you could become disqualified. So my lane is to reconciliation. My ultimate goal is that we can find this city and find a common ground. What can we do to reconcile? If someone is wrong, then they have a right their day in court. We're not going to put someone down to build someone up. what we're going to do is find a medium ground, and my goal is to pray until things change and get better. But I can reflect upon some things that transpired a few years ago when we had the atrocities here in the city, gun violence, we had boots on the ground, and prayer strikes in the air. And we circumferenced all four corners of the city of Joliet. And every time we went out to address the issues that were going on in the city of Joliet, the mayor, Bob Odenkirk, was there. He showed up every time. And not only was there just walking with us and praying with us, but he also believed in what could make this city better. So I'm here today to say that I believe that we can get better. And another thing that I want to say is this: truth will do three things. Truth will get you in trouble, truth can get you killed, but truth can create freedom. So in the midst of getting in trouble, stand on truth. In the midst of facing death, stand on truth. Because at the end of the day, all of us seek to have freedom in our lives. Thank you so very much, and may God bless you, and may God constantly keep you.
Next coming to the lectern is Detective Dave Jackson. Mr. Jackson.
Good afternoon. I'm not Detective Dave Jackson. I'm Brad Price, and I'm here representing the Black Police Officer Association. I'm a retired Joliet police officer and current member of the Police Officer Association. Just before I get started, I wanted to say how impressed I am with the young people in our country who have united to dismantle hate and evil. I applaud them for looking forward and having vision to make change, and I just think they should be applauded for it. In this day where so many young people are being recognized for the negative things that they're doing. I want to use this time to share our organization's experience with the mayor in his office. So we are the Black Police Officers Association, and we're the local chapter of the National Black Police Association. The BPOA, it's our primary mission for over 30 years in Joliet has been to enhance the relationship between the police department and members of the Black and Hispanic communities. The goal in building relationships that foster mutual trust, the goal is to build relationships, that foster mutual trust, cooperation, and respect. Our motto is building bridges, not walls. Our partnerships and programs with the local school districts, faith-based organizations, and social service agencies are highly regarded and recognized nationally. We were instrumental in working with the city to bring cultural diversity, inclusion, and implicit bias training to our police department members. We advocate for more diversity within the ranks of the police and fire departments. That being said, I want to say that our mayor has stood by our organization and supports us in our mission. He's been receptive to our concerns and acted on behalf of our causes. He has worked with us to increase the hiring of African American women on the police and fire departments. Mayor Odenkirk has appointed African American men to various boards, committees, and positions throughout city government. He's worked alongside us in building relationships and providing services to churches, youth organizations, and educational institutions. The mayor's work with the BPOA shows his desire to shrink the gap on some of the racial disparities that exist in our city. Prior to his administration, the police department had a 25-year period without hiring any Black female officers. Prior to his administration, the fire department had never hired a female firefighter in its entire history. He's dismantled the Good Old Boy Club and is creating city government that represents the diverse complexion of this community. Our organization will continue to work on building bridges, leveling the playing field, and seeking inclusion for Black and Hispanic communities with this current administration. We would hate to return to the politics of previous city government. We know that the road ahead is long, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of changes that need to be made. But let's not move backwards. Let's call this administration to action and move forward with them with cooperation.
We're bringing a citizen by the name of Ms. Madi Perez, who was there at the time of the incident. And so, Ms. Perez, if you would come forward, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maddie Perez. I'm a community activist from the St. Pat's Association neighborhood. I come here to speak on what I observed personally Sunday night. What I observed were a crowd of people that were very aggressive, that were very angry. They were rioting, they were looting, they were attacking, assaulting the police officers of Joliet, and I also observed the mayor be assaulted. What I will say to my city is that this is the time where we all need to come together. And I pray and I hope that this situation will bring us all together to have those tough discussions, because what I saw Sunday night was horrific. I've never, in my 20 years being a resident of Joliet, observed such aggression, such disrespect. I felt hopeless seeing this happen in front of me. Young people hanging out of their vehicles, screaming profanity, throwing water bottles, canned things. It was horrible. I've never seen JPD be so violently attacked and the mayor be assaulted and then physically attacked to the point where he was pushed to the ground, falling onto another citizen. It should have never happened. It was horrible. And I think we as a community and all of our community activists need to come together in unity, with empathy, with an understanding, and have these conversations with our youth, because it wasn't okay. I want to express my deepest condolences to the family of George Floyd. I think we're all here because we all share the heartfelt seeing what happened to him, seeing this brutality. There's no doubt that we do need judicial reform, that we do need to deal with the police brutality from certain police. This does not represent all of our policemen and women that serve and protect our lives daily. With that said, I pray for unity. I pray that we can all come together. And I just feel like the mayor is not getting a fair shake with the way he's been verbally attacked. I know myself, I've been verbally attacked for speaking up on what I saw that day, and it's not fair. I have a lot of community activist people that I've considered dear friends of mine who have come at me for speaking up on what I observed. And you know, I'd be the first one, I've said it before and I'll say it again, yes, I bumped heads with Mayor Oderkirk, but I respect him. I will say that him being out there Sunday, I found a greater respect for him. It showed he really cares about our community. Seeing him take that kneel Sunday out with the people at White Castles, that just sent a big message to me. And I think we need to put our personal differences aside, and we need to come together as one. Thank you, Joliet. M-A-D-Y. Thank you. I'm sorry, P-E-R-E-Z. Thank you, thank you.
We'll now take a few questions. Mayor Oderkirk will. For those who have your questions, please raise your hand so I can identify yourself by name and news affiliation.
Also, if you could step to the microphone so local TV can pick it up, please. Thank you.
Hi, Simon Francisco with WGN. Mayor Oderkirk, can you describe for us in your own words what happened to you on May 31st?
Well, I don't, I've spoken about it quite a bit. Obviously, it's being investigated by the state police at this point, and there's lawsuits. So I won't go much further. There's video out there which is grainy and probably not a good look. My hope is that there's additional video, and there probably is, that's going to show the entire incident. Like I said, I was not, as I was out there throughout the night, was talking to people. Some recognized me as the mayor, others didn't. Many were not from our community. But urging people to go home, that's demonstrated in the video, trying to calm down the situation. The incident in question was an individual who came and engaged me, and that's essentially what led to the altercation.
Can you tell us if official charges will ever be found against this kid?
I don't know. It certainly doesn't come from me. My understanding would be that the state police are going to look at all aspects of this and will make a recommendation.
Any other additional questions?
I'm Eric Roscovi, Channel 5. How do you respond to people who say you were impersonating a police officer?
I was not. I was there as the mayor. I wasn't taking enforcement action, but again, I was trying to diffuse the situation as best I could and trying to keep the peace. And quite frankly, some of the people who have been critical of me, I've said openly, I wish they were there with me. I wish others were on the street trying to stop what was happening in Joliet. Ms. Perez just spoke about it. It is a miracle that no one was killed that night. It's a miracle that our police officers were not seriously injured or killed. There were officers shot at, was gunfire, pieces of asphalt, bricks, rocks, frozen water bottles, all thrown at myself and the officers throughout the night. So it was a horrible situation. I hope I don't see it again. It's my 10 years as a policeman, I never saw anything to that extent here in Joliet. And no, I wasn't a person. I was trying to do my role as a mayor and trying to defuse the situation.
Final,
Sir, can you make sure you speak into the microphone because
Sure.
you're not picked up.
Okay, how is your office working on healing the community after the protest?
I spoke with a few different individuals. Obviously, a lot of people are here that are from the community. I've attended protests both that night and subsequent to that. So as I said clearly, I'll work with anybody. I always had that motto as mayor. But moving forward, I think a lot of the individuals who are here today in support are going to be the key people to putting the community back together. One thing that I have found a little surprising, and I've expressed this when I've been at the protests, our city, which is a very diverse city, has avoided this type of racial unrest for many, many years now. I think part of it is because of the community policing that our Joliet Police Department was one of the first departments to really embrace back in the early 1990s. And the City of Joliet Police Department has constantly been used as a role model for other communities for our policing efforts. So it was a little bit, I think it took some of us by surprise, the level of unrest that would descend on our city. We've had controversial incidents in the past. We've had police shootings. There have been issues that were not always well accepted by the community, but we always had a good dialogue and never had, or it's been a long time since we had this type of incident. I think probably going back to the assassination of Martin Luther King was the last time the city of Joliet saw this type of unrest.
Bob O'Connor from the Herald News. Some questions have been raised about your activity in the past as a police officer. Will you allow details of disciplines that you or suspensions that you had being released?
Well,
Reasons for those suspensions?
I'm glad you asked the question, Bob. I think, what happened today with your newspaper, I think was reprehensible. You printed bad information. Your editor was told it was bad information. But if you want to go on the record about my police career, I served honorably here in Joliet for 10 years. The last 4 years of my police career, I went to law school at night at John Marshall and achieved a law degree. I was nominated 4 times for Officer of the Year. I won the Martin Murin Labor Award in 1995, with my partner, Pat Cardwell, who's currently a Joliet Police Sergeant. I left the police department 17 years ago. That was a personal choice that I made. I wasn't forced out. I didn't leave with discipline pending or looming. It was a choice that I made. I was an outstanding police officer, and part of me loved the job, and part of me recognized the toll that the job was taking on me, so I made a personal choice. So to go beyond that and the smear that's been leveled against me, both by your paper and by some individuals calling me nicknames that I was never referred to before, it's unfortunate. But for the record, I will say that I was never disciplined for excessive force or any type of improper activity with abuse of a prisoner or abuse of a citizen of Joliet.
Well, but what about, would you allow details out of those suspensions, the reason?
I don't know what you've been given. Someone is feeding you bad information.
You were already
Thank you.
suspended?
I was suspended, but not for any of the things that are being alleged.
We don't have any information.
This lady here is your phone,
Similar question. Alex Weber in photography. Similar question. The records we've received show a number of days that you were suspended, or that you were alleged to have been suspended. Can you say you served all those days?
Absolutely not. You got bad information. It was given out by, well, I'll leave it at that. There's bad information, and that's all I can say. But again, my record is clear. You could FOIA it, the personnel file, what's available, what is legally responsible for myself or any other city employee. It's all there, and I encourage you to look at it, and I encourage you to print it.
Can you indicate how many days?
I don't know. I was suspended once for missing a court date. I was suspended once for having a vehicle parked improperly. I was suspended once for writing on a desk. You're talking about my career 25 years ago. I've been an elected official for 9 years. This was the smear that I put up with when I ran again for mayor. Misinformation about my police career, misinformation about lawsuits that I was not involved in. So, I really don't care to go any further than what I've said, but I'm proud of my police career. And again, I wish the documents that are available, you are available, I wish you would print them and talk about what type of police officer I was.
So we were given the personnel orders.
I don't know what you were given, but it wasn't accurate.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
John Parrott from Joliet Hatch. Mayor, you obviously had several people call for your resignation, starting with Warren Doris last week, and there's been other individuals too. What do you say at this point in time, to those politicians or former politicians that have called for your ouster?
Thank you. I think the key word is politicians. Like I said in my statement, I'm willing to work with anyone, including Pastor Doris or anyone else who is a critic of mine. The idea of resigning never crossed my mind, John. I was reelected a year ago. It's a 4-year term. I will finish my term. And certainly at the end of this term, the people of Joliet will have a choice as to who they want to be the next mayor. Okay. Well, again, I do want to thank everyone for coming. I believe the weather's held up so far. So thank you. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hi there, Jamie Kane from the Times Group. Just had a question. Do you think you'll be going out with the police in the future to in situations like this, because these may be going on consistently? So I just didn't know. We don't understand why it is we chose to go out with the police.
Well, like I said, I've gone to protests that day. After that day, I'll continue to do that. If it's happened in our city, I'll be there. In a situation, I'm not sure if you're familiar with how bad it was Sunday evening, but I was out there. I was at the very beginning. Myself and the police chief were at the corner of Jefferson and Larkin, and we spoke with one of the leaders of the protests. And this is when things first became unruly, trying to diffuse it. He had a specific request he wanted from us, and as we were talking, a police officer next to me got hit in the face with a rock, and that's basically how things began to unwound. So I was on the scene. I certainly wasn't going to flee or go home once it happened. I was there, and I was doing what I can, again, to try to diffuse it, try to get people to go home, and to support our men and women that were on the front lines of this. So yeah, I absolutely am going to be available. I continue to be available. I believe it's my job as the mayor to be there, to make sure that those types of things are being done, especially when in bad situations like what we had that Sunday evening.
Floyd, Alexander, Joliet Community Television Station. I have a comment, a statement to make, and then I also have.
Ma'am, we're just taking questions. We're not, excuse me, ma'am, we're just taking questions. We're not taking statements. If you have a question, here's your question. We're not taking any statements from anyone.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to know if at any time when you arrived at the scene that you announced who you were.
Well, with the chaos going on, it wasn't really an opportunity to make an announcement, but there were a number of people who recognized me and were saying things like, Mayor, what are you doing here? And I was going, what are you doing here? You guys got to go home, that type of thing. So there was a lot of communication when it was possible. When things got really bad later in the evening, there was no communication between anyone. It was just a matter at that point, our police department was under, as it was said, was under repeated physical attack from the mob.
Okay, could you state it? That's it? Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you for coming here. If you have any questions, you have information on how you could reach me. Feel free to reach out to me at area code 312-256-7185. Again, my name is Al Penn, and thank you for coming. Thank you.